Let's talk about colons. We saw colons early on when we were talking about how to correctly punctuate two independent clauses, and I promised that we would come back to them. This is it. So colons are used after complete sentences to introduce related information that comes in the form of a list, an explanation, or one word. So as an example, you will see that we have an example of a list. The final game had the makings of an instant classic. Great rivalry, bad weather, and an unbelievable comeback victory. That's an example of a list. Now notice the first part of this is a complete sentence. It's an independent clause. The final game had the makings of an instant classic, and then after that we can put a list. Secondly, an explanation. Players were united in purpose and had only one goal in mind: to win the game. What are we explaining? This is explaining the one goal in mind that everyone had. Players were united in purpose and had only one goal in mind. While that's a complete sentence, it kind of leaves you wondering, what was that one goal that they had in mind? To explain or to complete that thought, you would say to win the game. That's the one goal that they all had. All right, the third is the one word example. The winning team's coach only said one thing: bravo. So this is a complete sentence. The winning team's coach only said one thing. And then you leave your audience wondering, okay, what did that coach say? You finish it by using one word, using bravo. As a quick reminder, to use a colon, you need to have a full sentence followed by a colon, and then anything goes, because we can put another independent clause, we could put a list, we could put an explanation, and we could even put one word. Anything goes after you have a complete sentence and a colon. Now, let's try some examples. This is question 62. So why don't we start reading it from right here, the highlighted part, up to here. I would like you to read this on your own and try to come up with the answer. Go for it. Let's go for it. Jones even fudges her date of birth. She falsely lists May 1st, International Workers' Day, and ages herself by nearly a decade. Now, let's go through the choices. The first choice says no change. Joan even fudges her date of birth. She falsely lists May 1st, International Workers' Day, and ages herself by nearly a decade. So the first choice here says this is fine. I don't agree with having a comma here and here. That doesn't make any sense. So Jones even fudges her date of birth. That sounds like a full sentence. Jones even fudges her date of birth. That's a full sentence. She falsely lists May 1st, International Workers' Day, and ages herself by nearly a decade. This part is also a full sentence. Remember, we cannot separate two independent clauses using a comma. That's why F is out. Let's read G. G says we need to put a colon after the word birth right over here. Let's do that. Jones even fudges her date of birth. She falsely lists May 1st, International Workers' Day, and ages herself by nearly a decade. And that would be correct, actually, because, again, this first part right here, Jones even fudges her date of birth, that is a complete sentence. It goes on to explain, how does she fudge her date of birth? This is the explanation example. She fudges it by falsely listing May 1st, which is International Workers' Day, and ends up aging herself by nearly a decade. So the answer is G. And we can move on from this. Next question, we are answering question 69, which means we can start from here, the highlighted part, and maybe end here. It goes on to say, by 1900, the white-haired, calico-frocked figure was no longer known as Mary Harris Jones. The media, union workers, and even U.S. presidents referred to her as Mother Jones. So once again, I'm inviting you to try this question on your own and try to see if you can come up with the right answer. Go. This looks like more of a semicolon question, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and read it. By the 1900s, the white-haired, calico-frocked figure was no longer known as Mary Harris Jones. That first part up to here is a full sentence, isn't it? And then the second piece starts here. The media, Union leaders and workers and even US presidents refer to her as Mother Jones. So we have two independent sentences and they are related, right? How are they related? The first part is saying they no longer refer to her as Mary Harris Jones. The second part is saying they refer to her as Mother Jones. So two independent clauses and they are related. We saw the best way to punctuate that is by using a semicolon, which makes D the correct answer to this question. You put a semicolon here because that's the ending of an independent clause and the beginning of the other independent clause.